it's impressive. And that said, I want to bring Ivana into this conversation exactly because she was the one that has been absolutely fascinated from your writings, but also because she's the one that is able to accompany us in a more visionary maybe and artistic perspective in this cosmos. Ivana prepared a text that is going to be read by Kelly Krugman, that is co-curator of the project, and is joining me on another laptop. But I want to, for those who are not too aware with her work, I want to briefly tell a couple of words about her. So Ivana is a visual artist based in Berlin, here with us, hiding as the dimensions are hiding, but here. Her works, often investigations of darkness and light, focus on the interface between consciousness and the environment, while addressing perceptual thresholds. Her recent projects include Imminence, an exhibition in the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art in Rijeka in 2019, and Time Slip, a public project in 2020. Now she's making me sign, no, don't read every single detail of my bio. So I would just say a couple of titles of her installations because they're quite indicative of our work. One is called Lovers Seeing Darkness, Fupiti Unknown, Darkness Towards a Phenomenology of the Unknown, that actually I remember I curated at Schering-Stiftung, Perceptual Drift, Disorientation Station, Seen with Eyes Closed, and Latency. This is maybe saying something about our work, but now we listen to her word read by the magic of Kelly Krugman.
So I will begin by reading a talk that was developed for Episodo, a part of Yokohama Triennale, curated by Raqs Media Collective, where earlier you heard Monica Narula speaking to us on unknowable, unseeable forces as well. The talk is called Chairs Outside of Human Consciousness. For this, please activate the full screen to see the video and focus only on the visuals during the duration of the whole talk. 1. Contents of consciousness. While sharing this virtual space from many locations, most of us are at this moment sitting on chairs. A chair is an object that forms and modifies space according to our bodies. Chairs are widely used by many people on a daily basis. A large number of humans spend up to 1/3 of their lives sitting on chairs. The chair I am now sitting on has a black steel frame. Its backrest and seat are made of wood painted blue. It is quite an ordinary chair. It is not very comfortable. In the classroom of my elementary school, there were chairs of a similar shape. They weren't very comfortable either. 4 years, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, I sat on them for about 4,000 hours, almost half a year of my childhood. I remember having dreamt that they had grown fat, soft, round cushions. This reminds me of a recent experiment I did with a vision scientist friend. We drank tea made of magic mushrooms containing psilocybin, a hallucinogenic substance, to observe how our perception would change. The color of the chair in my kitchen became much more vivid. Each particle of its surface was glowing and vibrating. Those particles then spread into the space around the chair and started swirling, creating fractal-like shapes. They even made some sounds. 2. Multidimensional consciousness. According to the neuroscientist Olivia Carter, consciousness is multidimensional. The chairs I am sitting on now chairs on which you are sitting far away, some of them on another continent, chairs of our childhoods, physical, imagined, remembered, dreamed of, made up, or hallucinated. They are all appearances in my consciousness. My mind's chairs exist along different times and spaces, within conscious states that differ from each other along multiple dimensions. 3. Very naive realism. The chair I am sitting on is clearly distinct from my other mind's chairs because the chair is here. When I talk about this, I am inevitably talking about my private experience of sitting on it, in the same way that I was talking about experiences of dreamt and remembered chairs. However, it is important to distinguish perception from imagination. The function of perception is to recover an accurate, vertical representation of the external state of affairs. What we see out there are not our private imaginations. They are public entities, shared and verifiable. When electromagnetic waves bounce from the surface of this chair, the light patterns fall onto my retina and are picked up by millions of photoreceptors. These photosensitive cells convert the light into electrical signals, and our brains process information by its shape, movement, and feature analyzers. So the chair appears in my mind exactly as it is out there. And because electromagnetic waves bounce off of the chair, they are within the range of around 470 nanometers, which means that the seat is blue, and that I and other people in this room all see it as blue, unless someone here is colorblind. 4. Controlled hallucinations. On February 26, 2015, an image of a dress was posted online with a question: is it black and blue, or is it white and gold? Within hours, millions of people from every continent had voiced their opinions. Many saw the dress as gold and white, and many saw it as black and blue. There was no minority group whose opinion could have been explained away as being the result of some psychophysical disorder, even though there were many attempts to impose it. This viral event turned out to be the largest color perception experiment to date. In an article published in the Journal of Vision titled "The Most Reasonable Explanation of the Dress: Implicit Assumptions about Illumination," authors Witzel, Racy, and O'Regan write, "Perception feels as though we are directly assessing the characteristics of the world around us, because we feel that colors are fundamental properties of the visual environment. It is shocking when other observers see different colors completely than in the particular photo. Our findings show unconscious assumptions and beliefs about the reality represented in the dress photo influence which colors observers perceive. This might be considered as an example for the cognitive penetration of perception, which refers to the idea that cognitive aspects such as thoughts, knowledge, and beliefs shape perception. Or in the words of the consciousness scientist Anil Seth, perception must be a process of inference, in which indeterminate sensory signals are combined with prior expectations or beliefs about the way the world is to form the brain's optimal hypothesis of the causes of these sensory signals, of coffee cups, computers, and clouds. What we see is the brain's best guess of what is out there. In this view, which is often called predictive coding or predictive processing, perception is a controlled hallucination, a fantasy that coincides with reality, as the psychologist Chris Frith eloquently put it. 5. Phenomenal reality. So, apparently, the experience of perceiving the chair on stage is not so different from the experience of seeing a chair under the influence of psychedelic substances. We know that it has been said already many times that perception is often misleading, and that all we can rely on, in fact, are the measurements of physical and chemical properties. However, Would I know what the chair is by knowing its molecular structure only, without having the sensory representation of its properties, like that I see its shape and color or touch its surface? Would I know that I could sit on the chair? This physical entity, this chair, and anything else for that matter, becomes real to me as I experience it. Only when I experience perceiving, when I see or touch, do I realize it is there, which implies that it is in our minds that this object becomes something that we can relate to. As we look at it, touch it, categorize, and name it as a chair, and use it. This is how it appears in our phenomenal consciousness. Phenomenal consciousness or experience is a medium in which the chair and everything else can only appear. There are no chairs outside of human consciousness. So it seems that to have chairs at the first place, we will just have to deal with our imperfect perceptions, as we can't put them aside. 6, perceptual thresholds. As the psychologist Max Velmans pointed out, at close distances, we experience things where they are. The chair is here. It breaks down at far distances. If you look at the night sky and you see the dome of the sky, you literally are viewing the limits, the boundaries of the phenomenal world. Then we invent telescopes. Perception breaks down in many other instances. Now on the screen, we can see rectangular wave periodic gratings of different spatial duty cycles used regularly in scientific experiments to measure visual acuity, the resolution limit of the visual system. We can also just simply say that black and white stripes with straight edges are being presented. There are no colors on the screen, there are neither waves, no curved edges, no vibrations or overlaps. There is nothing in front of the screen. The image is two-dimensional. As with the chair, light bounces off of the material surface. In this case, the screen, it reaches our retinas, is produced by our brains, processed, which then makes some guesses about what is out there. The brain's hypothesis should clearly be, on the screen in front of me are black and white stripes with straight edges. However, we can't see them as such. They evade our gaze entirely if you are actually staring at the screen. Something else is there instead. These situations are called thresholds. Like when the chair's surface begins to vibrate, when I realize that the color I see is my private color, and that you see something entirely different, which I will never know or understand, when we don't see what is out there, regular stripes, and I see what is not, colorful waves. I encounter the thresholds of my phenomenal world, its ruptures and cracks. I'm actually encountering passages of extra dimensions, which exist just slightly outside of our human scale. And there is no way to explain them away. They're as subjectively real as it gets, and certainly no less real than the chairs we are all sitting on now. 7, where are we? To be able to account for ourselves and others, humans and non-humans, it seems that we need to reclaim sensitivity to times and spaces that are larger and smaller, different from our own. Dreamt, remembered, dislocated, absent, and vibrating chairs are aspects of reality that we can no longer afford to ignore. All those chairs are parts of my consciousness. They exist here and now in our minds, brains, bodies. I should not forget that the chair I see is not the chair you see, that we cannot have identical experiences. I should not forget that your experience is unknowable to me, and that my experience cannot be your truth. I should also not forget that we are sharing an experience of sitting together, looking at the chair of our own.
This was Ivana Franke, read by the voice and the body, I would say, of Krugman. Absolutely mesmerizing. It could have seemed at the beginning a conceptual exercise, artistic exercise a la Joseph Kosuth, but it's really something different. And I think this reclaiming of attuning to the sensitivities to spaces that we can no longer afford to ignore is very important. And we're trying to do it with a program such this one, but in general, we're trying to do it in a different way maybe, but with the work that we do at Savvy Contemporary.